Well, hello, and welcome back to Soul Search Sunday with Johnny Tiger. The date is April 20, 2025. Happy birthday to our good friend Maggie. And I hope that to those of you who indulge, had fun today, get high, have some fun, relax. But hopefully, you guys can still function tomorrow. And also, happy Easter, everybody, for the people who celebrate. Easter is a wonderful time. For most people that are religious or of the Christian faith, it is a religious day. But for me, Easter symbolizes springtime and all that fun, good stuff. So today, I want to talk a little bit about something that came from a Chinese proverb. The old Chinese proverb that said, 用大智慧，不要耍小聪明. And basically, this translates to use true wisdom. Don't rely on petty cleverness. Have you ever have it happened to you where you thought you were doing something so clever, you found a loophole or you found a shortcut, and then it ended up costing you a lot more than you thought it would in the end and totally made yourself look like a fool? Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That those are the kind of petty cleverness that we encounter very often in people around us. Sometimes we even fall into that trap ourselves. So why do people do it? Why do people tend to want to rely on petty cleverness? There's usually two reasons. One is for ego. Okay, one is to make themselves look really smart. You know something that other people don't. You know this shortcut, other people don't. Well, have you thought about this? Maybe other people do, and maybe they know more than you do. Maybe they know that this shortcut is actually really bad, and you think you're super smart, and it makes your ego feel good, and you know this shortcut, and other people don't. All the while, you are actually the idiot that thinks that this shortcut is safe. Right? Um, so the number one reason why people sometimes rely on petty cleverness is the ego. Number two, the even worse reason is people do it out of that mindset that we want to get something while giving nothing. We want the shortcut. We want the easy handout. Some of you know that this last 2 years I have been involved in the professional art world, and I have been receiving grants both from the Canadian uh, Council of Arts and BC Arts Council. Uh, when I first started when I got my first grant, I had a couple of good friends that, the heart was in the right place, the heart was in the right place, and they suggested, and they said, "Hey, Johnny, why don't you keep this money for yourself? Like, come on, you got $15,000. Why would you spend that on art? If I were you, I would go pay off your credit card debt and then just keep it for yourself." So no, I can't. You know, when I applied for these grants, I uh, submitted a budget and I told them I was going to hire people for this, hire people for that. So like I gave my word. And so these friends, they say, well, I mean, that's easy. Hire me. Just hire me and I'll give you a receipt and then I will funnel the money back to you. Then you get to keep the money and they wouldn't know any better. This is a classic example of petty cleverness. Again, I know my friends were looking out for me, but this is a classic example of petty cleverness. Now, I said to my friend, I said, hey, look, you know, It I worked so hard to get these grants. I want a long and prosperous artistic career. I don't want to do something. I don't want to fuck around. Excuse my language. I don't want to fuck around now and then get audited or caught later, and then that will means I never get a grant ever again. Okay, I don't want to jeopardize that. So in this case, I'm using true wisdom rather than petty cleverness. Okay, just to give you guys a quick example of what we'll be talking about. So what are the problem with using petty cleverness rather than sticking to your tested true wisdom? Even though the true wisdom sometimes take a lot more work, take longer for things to come to fruition. Why is it not okay to rely on petty cleverness? After all, you're smart, you're sneaky, you're careful. What's wrong with it? Well, if I want to give you a sum of what we'll be talking about today, like the easy peasy for you to remember, always remember this: you can succeed 99 times taking the shortcut, going through the loophole. You can succeed 99 times. All it will take is that one time when you get caught, and everything will come crashing down on you. Okay, the damage that one time will do, the time you get caught, the time you get called out, the time that it fails, that one time is going to do more damage than all your 99 times of success added up together. Okay, it's really really bad. So it's not worth it. It's not worth to take that kind of shortcut. Now, when we expand upon that, when you use petty cleverness as your problem solving, as your way of doing things, there's usually three things that's going to happen. We'll go from the most minor one first. The most minor one that's going to happen is that you're going to look like a fool, right? You try to do you do this uh, clever thing, and you think it's going to make you look smart. You make a sarcastic remark, or you point out someone's mistake, thinking that it's going to give you a leg up. But sometimes, quite often, in fact, the karma is really a bitch, and it's going to come back and make you look like the idiot, and in the end. A prime example can be drawn from a very well-known smart person in Chinese history. In the Song Dynasty, there's a Chinese scholar by the name of Shu Dongpo. Shu Dongpo is the guy who invented the Dongpo pork, very famous dish, the Dongpo braised pork. Shu Dongpo is one of the smartest scholars in Chinese history, not just Song Dynasty, but entire Chinese history. Like Shu Dongpo is like up there as among one of the most smart and accomplished scholars in literature and poetry and journalism and articles and philosophy and all that stuff. Before Shu Dongpo died, he wrote a poem, and this poem, I'm not going to recite the whole thing, but basically, this poem said, many people in the world want to be smarter because they think being smart is good. I, on the other hand, have been ruined by my own cleverness, and it is because of being smart that I was unable to reach my full potential. It's a very bitter poem, especially near the end of his life. But if we look at the life of Shu Dongpo, it is true. Okay, despite being one of the smartest people in Chinese history, Shu Dongpo had a really shaky and unhappy career. He tried to go into politics. He was probably the one person in the entire Chinese history that got exiled by the emperor for the most time. Okay, he has been exiled to northern China. He has been exiled to Canton, China. He has been exiled to Henan, China. Like he been to the north and the west and the east and the south. Like every time he would finally get brought back to the imperial city because of how smart he was. In a short time, he would piss the emperor off, or he pissed someone off, and he would get himself exiled again and again and again, and every time it got worse and worse. Why is that? What's going on? Like, how can the one of the smartest people in Chinese history uh, keep running into that issue? Well, some people say, well, maybe the emperor was not a nice person. Maybe Shu Dongpo was very honest and wanted improvement for society and for the kingdom. Maybe he was too direct. Maybe he had too many ideas. No, it usually wasn't because of that. It's usually because Su Dongpo couldn't keep his mouth shut, and he would say something sarcastic or hurtful, or something that make the emperor or other people look bad, and that would result in him getting banished or exiled again. Prime example is one of these times when he has been exiled for 3 years, and then he finally worked his way back to the imperial city. After he returned, he had to wait for his new appointment. So he went to see the royal advisor uh, to get his new appointment. So the royal advisor can say, okay, now that you are back from your exile, we need a magistrate here in Beijing, or we need a general over there in Taiwan. You can go fill that rank. So, so Shu Yongpo uh, came to the royal advisor's palace to see the royal advisor. And just happened the royal advisor wasn't available at that time. So the servant told Shu Dongpo, "Go, you are welcome to wait in his honor's study. You can wait in the study for the royal advisor to come back." So Shu Dongpo went into the guy's study, and while he was waiting, he saw that there's a poem on the desk that the royal advisor was working on, and it wasn't quite done. It was like only the first two lines of the poem, and the first two lines said, "The I felt the autumn wind last night, and this morning I see the ground covered in jasmine flower." Okay, for most of us, there's nothing wrong with that. It's quite pretty. Shu Dongpo laughed his head off because Shu Dongpo knew that jasmine flower is what jasmine is one of those plants that the flower pretty much never fall to the ground. No matter it's autumn or winter, the jasmine flower stays on the plant. So you would think that after you already got exiled for 3 years and you just got back, so you would think that Shu Dongpo would stay low key, but no, Shu Dongpo was so smart. He believed he knew so much, so he picked up the quill and wrote the next two lines on the parchment, finished the poem for the royal advisor basically. His the two lines he added basically say, uh, everyone knows that jasmine do not fall. Doesn't matter if it's spring, summer, or fall. That was naughty. That was not okay. Okay? Now, after he wrote that, he waited another 2 hours and then he decided, ah, crap, the guy's taking forever. I'll come another day. So he left. He went home. A few hours later, the royal advisor came back to his palace And the servant said, "Oh, Shu Dongpo was here to see you for his new appointment, but he left already. He waited in your study for 2 hours." And the royal advisor went into his study, and he saw that Shu Dongpo completed his poem for him. And the last two lines were so disrespectful. Basically said, you know, any idiot know that the jasmine flower will not fall. So what are you talking about? That and you felt the autumn wind and the jasmine flowers are all over the ground. What are you talking about? The royal advisor was pissed. He was really angry, and he next day immediately ordered Su Dongpo to get exiled again to northern China. Su Dongpo felt that this was injustice committed against him. All he did was wrote two lines of poetry, and he got exiled again, and to a cold place like northern China. He felt that he was wronged. He felt that the royal advisor was stupid. That very same year, on the first day of autumn in northern China, Shu Dongpo got up in the morning, put on his clothes, and after eating breakfast, he opened the door and went outside. The moment he stepped outside, he was stunned. He was shocked because in front of him, all over the ground, were jasmine flowers. Apparently, Su Dongpo thought he knew jasmine flower, but he did not know that the species of jasmine flower in northern China do drop to the ground in autumn, just like the royal advisor was writing about in his poetry. Here he thought he was being so clever, pointing out what the guy was doing wrong, and the guy basically exiled him to northern China so he can see with his own eyes. I am not wrong. You are the idiot that's wrong. So that's a very classic example of someone who thought that they were doing something really clever and ended up looking the fool. And just in case some of you think that that example is like too archaic, I'll give you guys a real modern example of something kind of similar in that sense. This happened to my friend Lenny. God bless his soul. He passed away now, but my friend Lenny used to own a glass factory here in Canada. And Lenny told me this story. He said one time he held a meeting in the factory, and he had all the people um, do a meeting to decide, okay, which type of glass should we make? Should we do this fancy one that look really good, or should we do the cheaper one that just look like regular, boring, regular glass? Which one should we produce? So while the workers were having this meeting, and Lenny wasn't there for that part, while the workers were having their meeting, this one worker named George, we'll just call him George, um, suddenly stood up and said to everybody, look, you guys are having this meeting for nothing. Okay, I know what the boss want to hear. I know the boss. Okay, pick the cheap one. Pick the cheap glass, the cheap, boring looking glass. That's what the boss want from us. And the other guys were like, how do you know? How can you know that? And George said, you guys don't pay attention. Okay, I pay attention. Last year, when we had the company dinner, and when everyone went to the trouble of decorating and making things look fancy and expensive, the boss was very unhappy and said we wasted a lot of money. So obviously, our boss Lenny likes things cheap, right? He want things simple and cheap. So go with what I say. Go with everyone. Just tell him we want the cheap one. He'll be very happy. The next day, when Lenny came back to the factory and asked everybody, "So have you guys decided? Like, which one should we get?" Everybody unanimously said, "We want the cheap one, the cheap, boring-looking glass. We think that's the best one." Lenny was surprised and kind of confused because prior to this day he knew there was people who believed the other one was better, the other glass was better. So how is it that now everybody is saying that the cheap one's better? So Lenny started asking around, and finally someone ratted George out. Someone said, "Well, George told us that you you like cheap stuff, so George said we should just all vote for that one because that's what the boss wants." So that afternoon, Lenny called George into his office, and Lenny said, "George, tell me honestly, which glass do you think is best?" And George said, "Oh, the cheap one, of course. It's economical. It's not complicated." And Lenny said, "George, I gave you one last chance, but you blew it. Okay? I heard already. You told everybody to vote for the cheap one because you believe you know that's what I want. Yes, I like cheap economical stuff, but obviously the reason I wanted you guys to vote on it, the reason I wanted you guys to have a meeting is because I don't always trust my own decision. So what is the point of me having you guys to have a meeting if you're just all going to agree with me regardless? So just because you think you know what I want, you now make everybody go against their better judgment. You basically negatively impact everyone in this company. Now I can't trust anyone's opinion said to you. So I don't think you should work here anymore. I think I have to fire you. Sorry. Because you are too toxic for this workplace. So you see, George thought that he was uh, a mind reader. He thought he was telling everybody how smart he was, that he knew what the boss was thinking. But in the end, he ended up looking like a fool, getting fired. So that's the first reason why you don't want to rely on petty cleverness to get ahead, because a lot of time you will outsmart yourself. It will come back and bite you on the butt. Now, the second reason, even more serious, why you don't want to rely on this petty cleverness is you will ruin your credibility. Like I said, you can be successful 99 times, but all you're going to take is that one time when it doesn't work, your credibility go down the drain. Um, Another true story, some of you might even remember this one. In 2016, there was a mooncake incident with a giant company called Alibaba or AliExpress. If some of you like AliExpress better. Now, Alibaba, um, in 2016, right before Mid-Autumn's holiday, decided to uh, have this competition, like little fun competition. Uh, they ordered a whole bunch of really gourmet mooncakes just for their workers, and then all the workers have to log in and try to see who can click the button faster and who can complete these questionnaires faster. To and every time you do, you get a box of mooncake. So it's like a fun little contest that was easy to do, and everyone could get themselves some really gourmet mooncake, almost free of charge. There were four computer technicians working for the security department. They got together and decided to craft the computer code that would automatically automate the whole process of helping them win these mooncakes. And within one afternoon, the four of them won almost 200 boxes of mooncake, way more than anyone else. By 4:30 that afternoon, their little code was detected by the other technicians and reported to the top. By 6 o'clock that afternoon, all four of them were high-paying, highly trained computer technicians. All four of them were fired from Alibaba. Not only that, all four of them have ended up on the blacklist for many tech companies in China ever since. Now, some people say, whoa, that's kind of extreme. Like, all they did was snitch some mooncakes. Come on. But Alibaba's statement on the matter was very direct. Alibaba said, as a company that buy and sell goods on the internet, we rely on good credibility. If even our own technician was going to cheat the system by making up some hacking code to win mooncake, then we cannot be trusted by our consumers. We will not tolerate this kind of cheating behavior. So you see, these four guys, they thought they were being clever. Oh, let's just come up with a code because we can to get us more mooncake. As a result, they can barely find work in tech industry in China now. Last but not least, perhaps the worst thing that can happen when you rely on petty cleverness is that you will become short sighted. I'm not talking about your eyesight. I'm talking about your mind. A lot of time, especially when you have been successful in getting away with doing shortcuts and working the system, is that you get complacent, you get comfortable, and you will not further yourself. You will not have the motivation to go forward, reach out, and achieve more. You will be comfortable and just keep nursing the system, getting a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and pretty quickly you will find that you are limited rather than being helped by this tendency. We as human beings are pretty lazy by nature, and sometimes if things come easily, then we don't want to let go of it, even though we know that there's better stuff out there. Back in the chaotic time in China, about 3,000 years ago, the time of spring and autumn, when China was fragmented into like 16 kingdoms, there was a very accomplished politician by the name of Su Qin. Su Qin uh, was so accomplished that he became the prime minister of not just one but six kingdoms. Like, this is like never heard of before. A guy who could hold the ministry of six different kingdoms. So Su Qin, uh, he was born on a farm, but because he was a lousy farmer, he wasn't very good at working with his hand. So his parents gave 2 acres of land to his older brother. His parents gave 2 acres of land to his younger brother, but they didn't give Su Qin anything. They basically said, you are a lousy farmer. We don't want you in this family. Get out. And they kicked him out of the family. Later, when Su Qin became the prime minister of six kingdoms, he said a very famous quote. He said, if I received the 2 acres of land like my brothers, then I would never have achieved what I did. I would never have become the prime minister of six kingdoms because I didn't get what I wanted because they didn't give it to me. I had to work harder than anyone else to survive, and that's how I got to where I got to today. So when you rely on shortcuts, when you rely on little trickeries and loopholes, uh, that's what's going to happen because you get things so easily. You can just lay there and milk the system, and you will never get out of that mindset. Um, a primary kind of example that I can give you guys. This was also a true story. Happened in my father's business actually when I was very young. Uh, my father had two guys working for him, and one of them basically sit in the office and make phone calls and uh, try to establish connections and sell uh, the package to clients all day long. And this guy basically just like a desk jockey. And the other one, he looked like he was very successful. He was like in and out of the office every day, supposedly having meetings with this client, meeting with that client, and so on and so on and so on. Like he was never around. At the end of the year, my dad decided that he was going to promote one of them and fire the other one because he was trying to consolidate the workforce. Everyone thought he was going to promote the one that was always having meetings and going out to eat lunch and socialize with the client, where that guy just seemed so much more active. To everyone's surprise, the one that got promoted was the one that was in the office on the phone all the time. Why was that? Well, because my dad had started to wonder why is this other guy always having meetings, lunch meetings, and because when you have lunch meetings and dinner meetings and stuff like that with your client, you can uh, you can bring back the receipt and then the company would reimburse you. So my dad was wondering how come this guy keep having meetings, but he never accomplished any deal. He never signed any deal. So my dad decided to implement a new system. So he said, well, I don't want you guys to have to drink with clients and have to worry about driving. So I'm going to have a driver accompany you guys whenever you go out for these business meetings. And as soon as he implemented the driver, this guy stopped having these lunch meetings and dinner meetings. And that made it look really suspicious. So my dad started investigating. And what he found out made him really, really angry. Because all these times that this guy was bringing back receipts and proofs that he had lunch with this client, dinner with that client, he was forging, he was faking all these receipts, and he has cost the company so much money every time he would go to eat at these super expensive high-end restaurants. Like some of his lunch receipts were $800 receipt or $1,000, and so far that it's always been just him or him taking his family out or stuff like that. Like none of these were actually business related. My dad pulled the guy into his office and showed him all the evidence and fired him and then suing him for basically lying to the company and effectively embezzling money from the company. And I think my dad told me that the guy ended up having to repay almost $10,000 to the company for damage he caused. Now, if we look at what's going on here, why was this guy such a lazy bastard that he just using the company money to go on personal trips, personal meals, and he wasn't working. He wasn't actually establishing connection with client. Well, because he got away with it in the beginning. Every day he could go to any restaurant he wanted, and then he would get his good friend or his family to sign a receipt and say they were they wanted to talk to him about the new tourism package and stuff like that. And the company was so relaxed at that time that he got away with it. And he got away with it once, he would try it again. He got away with it twice, he would try it again. And it got to the point where he had no motivation, no interest in actually doing his job, no desire in advancing his career. He was getting free meal every day. Why would he want to work hard? Well, because of that, he ended up having to repay $10,000 to the company, getting fired, and God knows if he could ever find a job after that. So don't let these little loopholes, shortcuts, clever little tricks and things lull you into complacency. Do things the hard way, the honest way, and you will be rewarded in the end. Thank you for checking out today's episode. I'll be back again tomorrow, hopefully, for some Music Monday. For now, have a good night.